Welcome to Lockbox, a podcast providing real estate professionals with action items for success. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I'm going to be your host. I'm the founder of two real estate marketing and tech companies, STEEZY.Digital and realnurture.io. In this podcast, you'll learn from top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers the exact secrets to their success. Welcome to Lockbox. Welcome to Lockbox. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I am here today with Khaled Yatim. Khaled, thank you so much for being with us.
Jeffrey, delighted to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So why don't you kick it off by telling our listeners who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Khalid. I live in Los Angeles. Originally grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I kind of got originally into real estate since this is a real estate podcast. My dad's an engineer. My mom's an academic. From a very, very early age, I loved real estate. I was always the guy that was going into open houses or, this 7-year-old kid that, loved to tour construction sites. I got my real estate license right out of high school. I became the youngest broker of California at age 20. Really have just loved the business ever since. Pretty much predominantly have worked across California, mostly lived in California and currently in LA.
Awesome. Yeah, great synopsis. And I love how you talked about how you got into real estate. That was going to be my second question if you didn't dive right into it. So that's a great story that you got into it right after high school. I almost had the exact same story, but I chose to do Cutco sales instead of real estate sales at 18, which took me on an amazing journey and learned a lot from that. And then I ended up circling back, and I was an investor through my 20s, marketing agency, and now I actually do have my license, in my real estate license. I got it last year, and I'm doing commercial. But yeah, I was so close. I literally took the classes, and I almost was going to take the test, and it was so close to having a similar story. So that's awesome that you dove in right after high school and got started early. So nowadays, I'm curious what the transaction volume of you and your team, where are you at today? And then I have some follow-up questions so that you can help those that are trying to get to that level.
Yeah, I've sold across my career, I've sold about $500 million in real estate, was a top producer from a very early age. What we've been doing at our company now is we've been building a software platform to help real estate agents deliver an ultimate client experience, streamline their business, streamline the client experience to boost volume. And so they can have more time to deliver, those personal touch points, and that kind of extra level of service. In the last, year, we went through we started building software a couple of years ago. In the last year, we've done something around $50 million in volume in our beta. And I think we're going to have a really terrific 2022. We'll definitely be well into the the 9 figures in sales volume. That's
amazing. Yeah. And I definitely am curious about that. So you mentioned software that streamlines the client experience, right? So you took your experience of 500 million plus in volume and all those transactions that led to that, and then you created this like very linear buyer journey with all the support and this very linear seller journey with all the support. Am I understanding the software properly?
Yeah, the way that I fundamentally believe that real estate is a human to human experience first and foremost. And as an agent and a broker, I know very much the value of a real estate agent. And I think one of the key drivers that makes real estate agents so invaluable to a transaction is that they give people the confidence and the assurity to say yes and to take that next step. And when we started thinking about the real estate transaction itself, it was literally looking at what do people do better than humans? Or what do people do better than technology? And what does technology do better than people? And, so we started thinking about it. We're like, at the core, we want the human to lead the experience. But there's so many things, in a real estate transaction, there's tremendous amount of paper volume that's come into the transaction over the past 20 years. You don't need to write your name 100 different times, on 100 different pieces of paper. So we looked at best practices of software companies and we said, okay, let's ask the sellers all of the legal compliance and all the regulatory questions that they need to answer in a format that they can do on their phone, right? Or a format that they can do, at their computer that they're used to. And let's automate that. Let's create a digital negotiation process. So, we can create more activity for homes rather than having, a paper embargo where you've got to take 2 hours to prepare an offer. We looked at all of these different things and really tried to build an end-to-end experience led by an agent where there are dashboards and interfaces for both seller and for buyer. And it's complex software, but the complex software produces that easeful experience for agents so they can do their job well, so they can really step into being that salesperson that they're really quite good at. I think it's a travesty that so many talented, charismatic salespeople, real estate salespeople, are some of the best salespeople in the world. I mean, you coming from Cutco, I mean, that's, that you're probably, top 1% of salespeople. If you can sell knives, I mean, that's a big deal. That's hard. And, you look at real estate agents and, they're terrific salespeople, and let's get them focused on selling, not being glorified legal aids. And that's really what we're focused on doing.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Really letting software and technology play to its strengths and letting humans play to their strengths.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what is that like for you going through a career of being inundated by paper as a real estate professional and now actively building a solution to help other agents that are encumbered by this crazy paper-heavy, lengthy transaction?
Jeffrey, I actually, my journey is going from a, real estate agent at 18 to, a founder at 35. I have, over the last couple of years of building, I've loved almost every minute of building this company. I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of pain and challenge and, being a founder and, trying to kind of break out of your shell and grow into that role. And so I can't by any means say it's been, easy every day, but the work and building the product has been honestly one of my favorite things. I mean, I'll get up on a Saturday morning just to jump on and figure out what questions need to be mapped to, what report. And, we built software. So across 2,700 zip codes in California, we know exactly who pays for what and how much. That was a joy for me to work on. And what I really enjoy the most is when our agents, go through a transaction and the paperwork is all automated once the onboarding is done. And to see that in the wild and be able to see somebody take that and deliver it to, a buyer's agent without having to do it, without this sounding too sales pitchy, I really love it. It's my favorite thing. It's like seeing my kid go to college or something like that. It's that accomplishment of helping somebody else.
Yep, absolutely. It is a fantastic feeling to bring something to market and watch it work and watch it improve someone else's life, and then be able to create a case study. Like, one of the toughest things for me owning a digital marketing agency in the real estate space is actually just stopping and looking at results and case studies and looking and, having my team and I kind of put things together based on tracking, because tracking with digital marketing is difficult when it comes to a real estate transaction. Sometimes the wife fills out the lead form, but the husband is the one on the loan, and it's tough to reconcile every single transaction from it. But when you point out, for example, like a 12-time return on ad spend, that was like one of our case studies, and it's just like, man, that was a game changer for that agent in that market. And that they're still with us to this day. And so when you stop and you see it in the wild, or you reflect, it's powerful. So I could definitely relate with that.
Yeah.
One thing oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the power of marketing is, something that I think is sometimes not as well understood by real estate agents, especially earlier in the career. If you look at the difference between agents that market versus not, it's really when you start investing in marketing and awareness and building that, you really start to develop an asset. You really start developing a really well-oiled machine around your business. It's a really important thing to lean into as an agent, I think.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And there are ways to market and get results now. And then there's also that residual benefit of the brand awareness. And if you're going to stick with it for a long period of time, that's all just adding value, adding people to the database. A lot of my top clients are like, it's all about the database, right? So, I mean, if you take one agent who's doing no types of marketing and is relying on that 2,000 or 3,000 people from their cell phone that they came in as a new agent with, as opposed to a different agent that's just spending a consistent amount per month on, mailers and Facebook ads and Google and just little things. And his database is slowly growing over time. In 10 years, who do you think is going to be the more successful agent, right? Like the person that has 5 or 6 or more times the people in their database. So it's super powerful over time. What I was going to ask you was your entrepreneur habit that you attribute the most success to. And the reason I asked that is because this podcast really is a podcast designed to distill down the action items for success from top real estate professionals. So I'm curious, is there a single habit from your real estate career that also then has been a staple of your success? Now, being a founder of a software company, is there a common thread there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whether you are building a real estate career as a salesperson and a solopreneur, or whether you're building a software company, it's a lot of the core elements of success are very, very similar, right? So it's like, I think drive is, one of the very, very key importance, that intrinsic burning desire to wake up in the morning and work on your craft, whatever that is. I'm very lucky in that I do very much love what I do. And I love both hemispheres of it. I love the software side and I love the real estate side. And so I feel very blessed. And when you enjoy the work that you do, I think that your output is orders of magnitude greater. So it's like really leaning into what you love about your work. Not to say that it's always going to be, roses and, you can just work on the things that you love. But I think, loving what you do is super important. I think that chunking is a really important thing. Eating the whole elephant is, it's just so overwhelming, right? But if you break things down into, okay, I want to achieve 30 deals this year. Okay, well, how I'm going to have to talk to, I go on this many listing appointments or work with this many numbers of buyers, and I'm going to have this level of awareness, and really just kind of like starting with your goal and working from the bottom and steps, I think is another important thing. And the last part the kind of step 3 is the value of working with a coach. My co-founder, Tim, and I, we work with an executive coach that helps guide us and lead us and, keep us accountable for our goals. And we're at the top of the organization, but it's nice to have even some accountability on, above us. We have a board, of course, but just somebody that we work with, on a regular basis is tremendously important.
Wow. Couldn't agree more. And your concept of drive being one of the most important aspects or the most important reasons why you've been successful, I think it does have a lot to do with it. I mean, you just kind of can't teach ambition or drive. Like there's that hunger that, you could teach tactical skills and you can teach negotiation skills or selling skills, but you can't teach drive, So yeah, that's definitely a major part. And for me, man, I remember being a kid, being, like 10 years old, and like both my parents were entrepreneurs. And so I grew up in a bit of a different world than a lot of people that had their parents going to 9-to-5s. I saw both my mom and my dad, to a degree, like loving what they did and working a lot. And I would help them with the family business as a kid. And, they give me like $5 here and there to just go do little like menial tasks. But being a part of that really shaped me. And it was interesting to see how then once I got into business, I had this just hunger to do my own thing because like I didn't ever really find an employee position that fit and that suited me. And it was because my ambition was so great. I remember sitting in an interview and I was like third interview down, like getting to the executive teams of this corporation. And they're like, what are your goals within the next 10 years? And I said, I'll make $1 million in a single year before I'm 30. And they were like, well, you're not going to do that here. So I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
I didn't get the job, and probably for the better, you know. And so that drive, there's something to that. So thanks.
No, it's so interesting that you say that, because I went to the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business for my undergrad, and I really wanted to get the taste of corporate life. So I went to work for a large bulge bracket investment bank. And, I really realized there that, man, I'm really not cut out for this corporate world. Right. And I remember, I had applied to a bunch of jobs, and I'm like, there's just like, God doesn't want me to have a job. Like, it's like, there's the corporate thing just wasn't aligning with me. It just, when you kind of know that you're entrepreneurial, and, I think real estate agents understand this firsthand, like that, going back to that drive, that burning desire, it's just a different wiring in your brain. And it's really hard to, I think, then fit that square peg into a round hole. And for me, where I've struggled is when I've tried to be somebody different than I am. When I wanted to, work in, corporate mergers and acquisitions, it was really trying to be somebody I wasn't. But when I really started leaning into being an entrepreneur and, being a founder, which I love so dearly, and the cells and the nerves in your body just wake up in such an interesting way, where they never woke up that way when I, went to the 60th floor of a, tower in San Francisco.
Yeah. And for some people that does it, but for you and I, it doesn't.
That's right.
Yeah. So I would be really interested to hear your take on the future of the real estate industry, being on the forefront of automating the paperwork aspect of the real estate transaction. I mean, you're obviously on the cutting edge of helping to innovate an industry that in a lot of cases is relatively far behind, especially on the commercial side. Oh my gosh. I mean, they're light years behind the residential side. And I feel like the residential side was pushed by COVID to implement certain things that caught them up, but real estate's an old industry. And, I'm just curious. I don't want to like plant too many seeds and skew your answer, but what are your like 5 or 10 year projections into the real estate transaction? Like, will the real estate transaction be mostly automated by 2030? What are your projections?
Well, I think that there's going to be a lot of automation inside of a real estate transaction where humans are continuing to lead that process. I have a few, one of the things that we've seen is, we build negotiation software. So you can negotiate for a house right inside of our platform, agent to agent. And what we're finding is that homes on our platform are selling for 4% more than their direct comp. And that's the benefit of technology, right? You are stimulating more interest for the property. You're generating more offers for the property. You're able to negotiate, more efficiently. You're able to sell the home for more money. Anytime you see positive results like that, I think that the industry will continue to lean into, technological avenues that produce better results. And, a seamless experience, where, consumers are changing, obviously, tremendously post-COVID. And I think, McKinsey, did a study that said that there was about 7 years of technological acceleration in the world in the last, 24 months of COVID. I mean, 7 years, that's a lot of, that's just a tremendous amount of advancement. And I think that the real estate industry, we see it every single day with the folks that we're talking to, and that understand there's something percolating in real estate, in residential real estate right now. And the industry is understanding that innovation is happening now. The other part of it is there's a lot of changes at the macro level, right? There's the Department of Justice that is, investigating real estate commissions. There's, 5 class action lawsuits that, looking at the same thing. Realogy Ryan Gorman at Realogy just came out and said, buyer's agent's role is going to change. And what we look at is saying we need to keep people in this process for all of the important reasons that I've mentioned earlier, but we need to enable them to be able to do more volume and do things more efficiently. And I think that that's what I see happening in the next 5 years. My dream, Jeffrey, is I think, there's 1 million homes for sale in America. Like there's only 1 million homes. Like that's not a lot of homes, right? And you really start looking at why, right? And buying and selling a home is the third most stressful event in a person's life, right behind death of a family member and divorce of a spouse. And it's a complicated, cumbersome process. And I don't think that's spurring anybody on to take on that process more often, right? And so what I look at is I'm like, let's increase volume, let's increase velocity, let's get real estate agents doing 50 deals or 100 deals a year versus 10 or 15 or 20. And I think the way that we do that is by creating a frictionless experience and being able to encourage your neighbor or somebody in your community to say, hey, you can buy the home up the street after 2 years, no problem. Like we can create and facilitate movement inside of markets. And I think that is going to be a big boon for the industry once we unlock this real estate transaction and make it a lot more efficient and seamless for folks. And I think by doing that, I think it's going to be the best thing that could happen to a seasoned real estate professional. And I think it's one of the best things that can happen for consumers. And I think that you're going to see platforms facilitate that, over the course of, the next 10 years.
I think that's a phenomenal projection. And to your point of humans still being involved, despite potential commission compression, technology has really helped the friction of the real estate process be reduced. And like you said, the goal of being frictionless and being able to Zoom meet, automated transaction contracts, have buyers, for example, doing a lot more research and not needing to go see 50 houses because they already know that they're pre-qualified, they can afford this one. And the appointment is at this time and it auto goes to your calendar and you just meet them there. Like the concept of the real estate transaction today is really evolving. And I am very intrigued to see what it looks like in the next 5 or 10 years. So I think those are some great predictions. And, moving on to really like what shaped you to be the person that you are today. It's easy to listen to this podcast and just be like, oh man, here's Khaled, like right out of high school, real estate professional, killed it. Now he's founder of a software company, obviously doing super well. I mean, 9 figures in sales, right? It's easy to say, it seemed like it was easy or like there was no hurdle or no struggle along that journey. But, I'm sure that there were, right? So I'm curious if you have like a favorite failure of yours, something that really shaped you and set you up for future success. Do you have anything that comes to mind when I ask that question?
I've had a lot of failures. I probably had so many failures that I can't even stand one up as a solo outlier. There's a lot of things that I would have liked to have tried to be, right? An investment banker. I really was like, I'm going to be an investment banker. I'm going to be a managing director for Goldman Sachs. I failed miserably at the attempt to do that. For me, I've never been the best athlete. I've never been, this super, super top salesperson. I've never, I even volleyball, right? I've played volleyball and it's like, okay, well, I'm always like the worst and then I become the most improved. And I think that for everything that I've done, failure is oftentimes just the early stages, right? It's sometimes it's, even an origin point and you work through it, right? You work through the challenge, you break up that. What is failure? It's often just a big, colossal group of problems that kind of mold together, and then it's like you can't really break it up anymore. But if you can really start solving problems and not eat that whole elephant, I think is a really good way to to avoid unnecessary failure. But I think more than I believe in failure, I believe in growth. I look to my team to provide feedback of ways that I can get better, to continuously improve in anything that I'm doing. And I really lean into anything that life presents, because I think that there's a journey here, and I'm fortunate to have a story that I'm proud of, but it's not without its pains, especially, as a founder. It's like I've had many sleepless nights. I have a team that I support and a team that supports me, and we lean into the struggle together, but we come out better than we went into it.
So true. School teaches us that, if you spell cat, K-A-T, you're wrong. That's wrong. 0 out of 10, right? But some would argue that that's actually a better spelling. In fact, the phonetic dictionary definition shows right there, K-A-T. And so it's really interesting, this society that we're brought up in, that failure is so stigmatized as a negative, when in fact it's molding and shaping you into what you then later will become. You'll be able to then get through a later storm, or help someone else through their storm because you got through one today or one 10 years ago. So yeah, it's fascinating to just reflect back on that and be like, man, you know what? Even though a lot of times when you're going through things like that, they're difficult or they're traumatic, you look back and those are the stories you tell. And those are the things you laugh about with friends about the trips. It's not when everything's just going easy. It's when something ridiculous happens and you got to figure it out and make it happen. So, yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine. Actually, we were having coffee earlier today, and we were talking about someone and just the journey of a young adult, right? 19 years old, and kind of on their own path, and how is that what society would dictate with him being off course. And I'm like, he's not off course. He's exactly on the right path. And if the world doesn't value him going off trail, that's their own judgment, right? But I believe that what he'll learn from the next 18 to 24 or 36 months, and we go through seasons in life, right? And I think that he's going to find his way, just like we all find our way. I'm an optimist, right? I believe that things work out. I believe that we're all destined to do something special. But the road is not easy. But there's been many a philosopher that for hundreds or thousands of years that have talked about the life and the soul's journey, and it is those dark points or those valleys that really do shape and inform us, and really make those wins and make the best days all the more exciting to relish.
Absolutely. And just to wrap this thought up, I mean, if you think of any story, any compelling story, most stories, in fact, in Hollywood and in novels follow what's called the hero's journey. And it's a very, very famous, well-known concept that you can easily Google and it'll come up with whoever came up with this. I forgot his name right now, but
Jeffrey Campbell.
Hero's journey. That's right.
Yeah.
The hero's journey, it starts with the hero in peace, and then some impending calamity or change occurs and throws him off his path or her path. And then they have to go on a journey to then kind of bring things back to the state of peace. But in that journey, there's a plot, there's characters, there's drama that unfolds. And then at the end, there's resolution, right? And when that resolution comes at the end, it's satisfying because of the uncertainty of that journey. So it's Yeah, it's really interesting when you kind of break down the philosophical side. But if you zoom out from your life, that's what's happening all the time.
That's right. And I would tell, I don't have any kids yet, but, I would tell my little niece and little nephew, like, or any young person, like, going back to the concept of failure, did you learn and did you grow? And if you can answer affirmatively to those two things, I don't care what happened. It wasn't a failure. Right? As long as you learned and as long as you grew from it, it doesn't matter. I don't care if your business failed. I don't care if, a relationship went, downhill, whether you're responsible or culpable. Did you learn? Did you grow? You can't go wrong.
Yep. That's just, we're a bunch of spiritual beings having a human experience, right?
That's exactly right.
So are you still in production? Are you still selling homes?
I do. I sell fewer now. It's funny. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, I really want to sell some houses so I can use my own software. And I get to see the agents do it, and I'm like, well, I want to do that. That sounds fun. Probably some deal flow coming up, but I'm much more excited to see folks on our team succeed. To one of our agents doubled their production volume, using the software, and just create better experiences and create more features and functionality that we can expand into more, more dimensions of real estate. So, but I'm sure there'll be an opportunity for me to dabble in it myself soon.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. So yeah, you really are focused on the software nowadays. I was going to start asking some questions about, kind of bring it back to real estate and talk about like referral versus lead gen and like,
sure.
Stuff like that. So you comfortable still fielding those questions?
Yeah.
So for your team nowadays, what's the ratio from like a referral or a sphere type of transaction as opposed to a new business transaction from some kind of lead generation source? What's the percentage or the ratio?
I think I'm going to talk about it in terms of value. So if you look at something called like, there's a term that, we look at a lot called acquisition costs, like customer acquisition costs.
Absolutely.
And if you really start looking at it, what is the, you want low customer acquisition costs, right? You don't want to have to spend all of your revenue to acquire the customer. What is the lowest form of acquisition? It's virality. What is virality? It's word of mouth. What is word of mouth? It's referrals. And, for a long time, I thought, referrals is something that, you hear about in real estate, right? Like that's a common term. It's the same thing at Uber, right? If people are talking about Uber, or they are talking about, some new app, or they're talking about West Elm, or whatever the case may be, that's a referral, right? They might use the word virality or something like that, but it really does come down to that. And that is still the best, the lowest cost, the most efficient, the most effective, the greatest form of lead generation and conversion, I think, in the world. And I think any business executive that's much more seasoned, I think that they would agree with that. People are talking about their business way more. It's the most effective way for them to drive more customers for their business. When you look at lead gen I spend a lot of time thinking about partnerships, right? So whether it's a Zillow Flex or whether it's a Redfin partner program, I actually think those two programs specifically are quite transformational in the industry. Leads are, it's not just a lead, right? Now it's a highly qualified lead. And that's why Zillow is saying, okay, we are not just going to, pay for this lead in terms of hundreds of dollars. We now want, we want a piece of the action, right?
We want 30% on the close.
30%. Yeah. And I think that is I think leaning into those partnerships are really great. And a really, really great way to make your business quite efficient and build virality from there, right? If the cost of that to you is 30%, but you're then generating terrific referrals because you're delivering unparalleled service and you're delivering a streamlined, confident experience for that client, well, then you're generating, 100% on any referral deal. And so I think that's the next best source of, lead gen. And then I think that there's other top of funnel, platforms, whether it be, a YLOPO or whatnot that, helps kind of helps stimulate top of funnel activity. I think that those are great too. I think it's going back to what you were talking about, a database, right? It's a matter of like making sure that your database is full and making sure that the experience that you're delivering is always on point. You go into a Four Seasons, it's always a pretty darn good experience, right? And it's like, if you are always delivering that experience, you are bound to have more plentiful leads and just really drive and amplify your business forward for years to come.
Good point on virality. I have studied that to a fair degree. I've read the book Contagious. I read the book, 1 million followers from Brendan Kane, and have really just studied that concept of like, if customers are sharing your business, that is essentially the largest vote of confidence that they could give. And, even going down to the point of like retargeting based on engagement and specifically saves or shares, that's just, when people do that, it's like they're identifying with your company and saying that, like, putting their stamp of approval on it, right? Super powerful. And you mentioned top of funnel, YLOPO, concepts like that, or companies like that. So I'm actually a digital marketing strategist for YLOPO. In addition to having my own real estate marketing agency, they kind of recruited me. They saw what I was doing, and they're like, "Hey, I met them at a conference that they needed some help with social media ad innovation, and I've been working with them since last year. It's been an awesome journey, great team over there, and they do a great job at scale, and my agency does a great job at customization. So they kind of realized that, like, when we get a top broker that wants to do this custom campaign and wants us to like custom copyright all this stuff, like YLOPO even says, like, we don't really do that, we focus on, like, we know it works. We're going to launch it for you. It's going to generate top of funnel leads. Like, this is what we're going to do. And hey, huge credit to like all the technology and all the things that they have built out. Like, I get to see the back end of all their ad tech. It's amazing. But nothing can replace a good old fashioned one-on-one conversation with a client and professionally copywriting a new TV commercial or a new YouTube video script, or, like that personal touch is really what my agency offers. That's different. So, it's interesting that there's a need for both. It's yes, and it's not this or that, right? And you can focus on having an incredible referral system in place, wowing and delighting your customers so that they are sharing, and filling the funnel with top funnel leads from both YLOPO and my agency. Like, it's yes, and like there's ROI from all of it. So right. I really just believe in abundance, and I'm glad you mentioned them, because amongst the like digital marketing companies in the real estate space, there are a lot that are so-called gurus that don't deliver. And I can say I'm biased, but YLOPO and STEEZY.Digital are ones that actually do deliver results. So I'm fortunate because my co-founder Tim, he was a founder of a company called Strike Social, and they optimize media performance for, Coca-Cola, Nike, Netflix, and Disney. So we kind of have our own marketing team, and marketing amplification platform in-house, through his previous company. And it is yes and, right? Like, it's, brand awareness is really important, and like, all the touch points along the way. But, you mentioned something really important, and that's, what are we good at, right? And it's knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at. I'm actually not the best marketer, right? Tim would outmarket me, 100 to 1. I would out domain expertise him 100 to 1. But together, we can, we're 10,000. And I think that that's right. A really good point of, really understanding and specializing in what you're good at. And that's really a lot of what we found with our platform is like, what are real estate agents good at? And like, let's try and amplify that, and let's try and minimize, the parts of the business that, a little bit more kind of have just not as aligned with what they're super, super great at. And I think that in any part of the world, there's the best organizations have all types of people that
are so specialized and nuanced in what they do. And that's what makes the Apples and the Facebooks of the world. It takes skill and talent in a whole mosaic to bring that image together.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. And that's why, even though I have my real estate license, I choose to be a marketing agent and then, just take referrals, because I didn't get my real estate license to now learn something new from scratch and become a master listing agent. I got my real estate license for various reasons. I plan to have it for the rest of my life, but my mastery is in marketing, and I choose to then stay in that lane. And it just allows strategic partnerships and opportunities that weren't previously available because of RESPA compliance, right? Not taking fees if you're not a licensed agent, just certain things that kept coming up. And I was like, I'm just going to get this license, man. I've been marketing for 5 years. Like, I should just get my license. So to that point, like staying in my genius zone, right? And
I love that, my genius zone. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, and then adding partners to fill in the gaps in their genius zone and what they love to do to get the transaction across the finish line. So have loved this conversation. Is there a question that I should have asked you, or anything you'd like to expand upon from earlier?
I really loved our conversation. I'm so grateful to, tell my story and learn more about what you worked on, and, really just hear from people and what their experience is in life and business, and learn from them. And, hopefully, listeners hear something today that's valuable. And, it's my favorite thing is meeting new folks and being able to hear their stories and their journeys, and so grateful to be able to do that here with you today.
Yep. Likewise. So Khaled Yatim, I really appreciate having you on. And, you are not only a real estate broker in Los Angeles, but also a software founder. You haven't even said the name of the software, by the way.
Nile Technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Founder of Nile, that, I haven't even seen it yet, but based on your industry experience and the way you're describing it, I think it's going to be a household name in real estate. And you got to let me know when that IPO comes out.
Yeah, I definitely will. Look forward to seeing you again well before that.
Yes, absolutely. And I almost forgot, how can listeners contact you?
Yeah, they can get in touch at contact@nilehome.com. And we have a really, really great team, that's global. We sit in Los Angeles. We have a terrific team out of Asia and Vietnam and New York and Canada. And look, we're a startup, and, we are a early growing, soulful brokerage that is using technology to deliver an unparalleled experience for agents and help them deliver that unparalleled experience for consumers. And anybody that shares our vision for building and innovating the future of real estate, by all means, get in touch, find me. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to learn from you.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jeffrey. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening. If you want to accomplish your real estate goals, then I highly suggest downloading my free Ultimate Real Estate Goal Setting Framework. The link is in the description of the show, and it will help you break down your annual income goal into the amount of phone calls, appointments, or open houses you need in order to achieve that goal. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.